Alright, what's up everybody? So I'm gonna be showing you guys how to make a funk slash lo-fi trap type beat using sample chops and just funk drum kits. So this is a little something I just whipped up. We're gonna make something similar to it, so here it goes. Alright, pretty basic, just whipped it up pretty fast, but oh, I gotta save it. I don't know what to call it. Something random. Alright, so we're gonna start something new. All the sounds I'll be using is from this Phonk drum kit, volume 5 and 6. Just found it on YouTube, some free stuff, so I grabbed it. But it's a pretty nice pack. Shouts out whoever made it. There's chops and samples, which is really nice because I don't really use samples all that much in my music, but I want to practice chopping stuff up, so we're going to listen to a few of them. You know what? I actually kind of like that. I'm looking for something without too much percussion in it already, but something that loops or has enough to work with so we can chop up a lot of the song. See, this already has drums in it. It's nice though, but we're trying to add our own little trap drums to it. So, yeah, maybe something like this. So, when I load it in, sorry, kind of sick right now. So, when we load it in, it magically just knows the BPM already. If you don't know how to do that, let me see if I can just mess it up a little bit. So this is how I get it. I take the well, actually I just learned something. Warp from here, and that's what I warp from here straight, and I think that's what I think that's how you find the BPM. That's what I do for acapellas, but I like to do it manually for samples. So I'm gonna take the metronome. So that's obviously not on beat. I'm gonna turn the metronome off, find the beginning of the sample, and luckily it's right here, and just kind of count in my head when I think it's gonna loop again. So I think that right there is another loop. So da, da na na, da, da na, and then if it loops back there, then that's good. So I'm gonna take this loop bar and enable it, and then I'm gonna make this part where I feel like it should come back. I'm gonna make that touch the end using warping the BPM, right? This might not be the most efficient way, but it's worked for me. And okay, wait. So what's going on here is that I need to chop a little bit off here, and I'm gonna use a smaller loop section. So I'm gonna take this. I'm actually gonna shrink it this time and get this thing to touch this here, and then we're gonna loop it in a small section and then just drag it out. because if it's on beat, then it should be on beat the entire time. Okay, that's actually the part that needs to... Sorry guys, but this is how we do it, trial and error. And then it gives you, kind of familiarizes you with the sample, so you can, when you want to chop it up, you already know where the parts are. One 39. Okay, sounds pretty good to me. Sorry that took so long, but yeah, in case you don't have the sample BPM, that's how I like to do it. I believe there's a faster way with the warp, but yeah. So for Phonk, it usually sits around 70 to 80 BPM, but if we bring that up, double time it, it's going to be 140, 150, so I'm going to bring it down 154. But we just got to remember that we're doing shit half time, so we're not hitting drums every single one of these. It's slower than that. So I'm just going to jump right into it and grab the kicks. I like these because they're not too, well, there is 808s in this pack. Which I might throw in there. But we need to make sure they sound good. You're going to want to make sure your 808s are in key, which you can do just by listening. But you see, I don't like to use 808s all that much because I don't have the proper way to mix them. I don't have a good monitor right now, monitor setup. I just use headphones. So for now, I just stay away from it. But I'm going to take these kicks. You're going to want to make them a little bit bouncy here. Maybe a 1, 2 right there. We're just going to keep it simple and loop these and then mix them up a bit later. But next is the snares. These are all a bunch of classic DJ Smokey. I listen to a lot of DJ Young Vamp. That's what got me into all this funk type stuff, chopping up old samples and putting these drums on it. So that's a pretty nice snare. I'm just gonna put that all over here. Just gonna add a couple extra kicks in there. And then what's important in Phonk is these, if you're clicking on this video, you probably want to know how to do the hi-hats with the bells, because that's a staple of the genre. So I like to take some open hats or some crashes, put them at the beginning of the bar. I don't know, it's just me, but I think it sounds pretty good. Maybe like a reversed one. See, the genre in general is very simple since they're using samples, but where the producers get to shine is the the drum fills and what they do with the percussion. So it's important that you take a lot of time adding a lot of variation. You're not just copying and pasting, because most of this is instrumental. If not, it has acapellas. So people are listening to the drums, and it's nice to throw in some of these things. And then onto the hi-hats, we're just gonna lay down a simple closed hi-hat loop. And for me, it just seems very easy to just copy and paste. Like, we're gonna do a bit of a faster one. Maybe a different sound. So for the variation of these, even though a straight one does just sound great, and a lot of people use it, that's all good, I like to add a little bit something different. So I'm going to take this, bring it down, and just fuck with the volumes on here. So it doesn't sound like much, but maybe take the pitch down for a few of them. It just adds a little bit of variation for me. And then I'm gonna just copy that straight here. I'm gonna add a little bit of a, but this is the main hi-hat. We're gonna add little flourishes and bells and stuff afterwards, so you don't gotta worry about this one. You can just have this one straight, but I like to add a little bit of a, I have this signature hi-hat pattern I like to do here. Maybe not signature, but I like to use it a lot, and it tells people that it's one of my beats, because it's kind of the only difference that I put in there. But I just like that. So it's just, we're taking the normal hi-hats and just giving it 4, well, I guess 5. Jeez. Since they're going by so fast, you can't notice, but it's going to be 5 of these hi-hats copied and pasted. And then I want that to happen ever so often, so I'm going to take this and just I want that to happen twice here. And then here's a little trick, because I know my tutorial is kind of garbage at this point. I don't really do these. This is my first one, actually. But for those who listened all the way through, I want to give a little bit of advice too. If you didn't know about this trick, it's really handy. It gets my anxiety about just leaving straight hi-hats on the floor here. It takes it away, because it adds a little swing. I know you might know about the trick of moving this a little bit over here, just to give it a little bit of a swing, and that's all good. For me, this actually adds the volume variation that I did as well, some of these. But if you take here the clip, you go to the clip settings, and you go to the groove, and you go over here, there's these hip-hop, SB12, MPC, swing maps, or whatever they'd be called. So you want to take one that's not too slow, because that'll mess up your hi-hats if you made them fast. Like this one, we couldn't use that one, but you want to take one of these and double click on it, press commit, and I might not add a bunch of variation to the common listener, but if we take it off, it does add a little bit of swing and a little bit of variation in terms of the velocity. That's what these little things are. It's taking your audio and mapping it. But you can only do that when you press Control J and consolidated this whole entire thing into one line. If it's just individual things, I don't think it'll work. So I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, now in trap or funk production, man, my text is getting text is blowing up for once. Only when I make videos is it gonna be blowing up. Alright, so I'm going back to my kits, and I'm gonna find a specific bell. It's only in this pack, but it's this. I'm sure you've heard of this if you've listened to funk music, but it happens on every time there's a kick or a snare. So it's almost like a 4 on the floor type pattern. I'm gonna add a little filter to my hi-hats just so they're in the background a bit more. And I'm gonna add a cabinet, because I just like adding cabinets to every single thing. I'm gonna add a high pass too. Alright, so that's pretty basic. We're going to copy and paste this over, and I'm going to delete this for now because I want a little instrumental break part for the beginning. I'm going to leave the kicks in, and I'm going to copy and paste this over and add a little bit of different effects. I'm going to add a cabinet. Oh, and this rather than a cabinet every time, I like to use this isotope vinyl plugin. It's free. You can just look it up, and it's got a lot of nice settings. I feel like if I add these, I can never turn it. Well, I can turn it off, but it's just always playing, whether the beat is playing or not, and it gets annoying. So I add that in post, but I add where. A little bit of warp depth, but you gotta have one of these selected. It just emulates vinyl decay. Not too much though. And then recording here. And at this time, while we just have the sample and the kick playing, I'm going to teach you guys how to do a little bit of a actually I'll take a dry one, but we're going to take the Ableton compressor and make a little sidechain. So you're going to take note of where your kicks are. It's track 4, and you're going to open it up to this section just so you can get a visual from it. You're going to do sidechain, turn it on. Number 4 is where your kicks are. I usually turn the ratio up, and I do pre-effects, because a lot of the time I do put a filter on my kick. We're gonna go in this section. We're going to take the threshold. And what this does, if you don't know sidechaining, is it's lowering the volume of this sample every time the kick plays. So in your mix, you're not hearing both of these at the exact same time, which can get pretty loud. And since you want your kick to cut through the mix anyways, we're just going to duck the levels of this every time that plays. And this is a simple way to do that. This little line is how much this audio is getting ducked. So It's really helpful, and it helps you get your mix right. This release is how fast the audio is going to come back after it gets ducked. I keep it pretty short, but I have the attack very low, just because I want it to duck immediately. So that's a technique used in lo-fi hip-hop, but also I hear it in funk a lot. So and this is starting to sound pretty crunchy, so I'm going to take this down. Maybe I will double up with a cabinet too. And just for some variation, we're going to add a little bit of gonna add some automation. So I used to always take the automation in this little button here and go to what I'm using, but that's just taking too long for me. I'll show you how to do that though. So you're gonna go to frequency, because we wanted to kind of do this sort of sweep. We're just gonna go and draw in some automation, and this line is choreographed with this, and we can make it do whatever we want. But just for some more variance, I take this. Oh yeah, my theme, my Ableton theme. Well, you can DM me on Instagram if you want to know how to get this. I can show you some cool themes. But this is not the standard Ableton theme. I have a bunch of really cool ones that I like to use for different beats and different moods. But this one's called Blossom. But it's kind of hard to see if this is activated or not, but you want this button activated. You're going to want to record. You're not going to want to record over anything else, so make sure nothing else is armed. But I'm going to go to my filter, wherever that was, here, and I'm just going to move it around manually while everything is being recorded. So hit record. Maybe I'll redo that. A little bit better, so. Alright, so out of everything I've done so far, the laziest part has been the sample chopping, because I didn't actually touch it at all. So this I'm just going to leave, but this I want to add a little variation to, so and there's no right or wrong way to chop samples, it's just what you like to do. I have a fun technique where well, it's a little complicated, but I could add another section of it. So I like to take make a chop every so often and scramble it up so the back is actually the front. It takes a while, and I'm hoping to find a faster way to do this, but you're basically chopping it so it's in reverse. And then I take this whole thing, I consolidate it, and I reverse it. So technically you're having the same chord progression happen, but every sound is reversed. See how it almost sounds like our original sample? But it's reversed, so. I might just replace that with that, and then, well, I don't want to get rid of. I'm gonna keep the unreversed section like this, and maybe splice in a little bit of flourishes, so. And I didn't really touch on bass line, but this the sample actually has a really nice bass line anyways, so when you chop that up, you want to make sure that you don't completely mess it up. So what I'm actually going to do here is copy and paste this and take these sections and pitch them up. Sometimes it can have a little glitchy effect because you're not speeding it up, but you are pitching it up. If you see those little artifacts, or you can hear them, I guess, those little glitchy parts, I like to keep that in. If you want to enhance that, you go to texture. So I like that. And then I put a filter on it just so I'm not taking the bass and also pitching it up. And then I like to enhance the glitches with stutters. Maybe just drop the beat out a couple times here and there. But for right now, I am preserving a lot of the normal sample, but just taking parts out and switching them around. It's just your taste level. If you like how that sounds, then you like how that sounds. If you don't, for me, it kind of works better on other beats. So I'm gonna copy and paste all this over so I don't lose any of my work, and I'm just gonna really chop this one. Take a little section from here, put it down here. Take these effects off. Just use this as a secondary layer. I guess nothing really happened there. A little too much there. Alright, and then I feel like funk as a genre is closely related to chopped and screwed, so I'm going to teach you some techniques within chopped and screwed. So chopped and screwed likes to take the beginning of this bar here, or maybe this section, and double it backwards so you're hearing it a little bit before you should. So I'm going to take everything that's happening here in this bar, the bell and the sample especially. I'm going to just copy and paste it all over there. So it's a little bit of a stutter, but it's a stutter kind of backwards, and it just leads to a trippy effect because the snare hits before you expect it to, so it catches you off guard, and then it hits when it's supposed to as well to keep the beat together. So and then you can throw in some stutters as well. Sorry there, I got a cough. So we're gonna take the kick stutter it up. Jeez. All right. So for this section, I want to add a triplet type drum fill. So I'm going to press Control 3 and open the triplet grid. Oh man, I'm dying. So, oh geez, I'm coughing so much. So I'm gonna copy and paste it. So you notice how 3 snares hit per section here. In a normal grid, that would sound more like this because we're going in fourths. Whoops. Yo, this is dead ass the coronavirus. Like, I'm not even playing with you. I got all the symptoms, but we're trapping through. So this would sound more like this, and that's actually kind of nice how it goes from 4/4 to triplet. It's kind of like a slow down because there's 4 in one bar and then there's 3. So drop some of this out, and a lot of people want to add more. We could add little percussive elements in here, but a lot of funk is very minimal in terms of its production. And it's a lot about taking stuff out. So if you want to add a cool effect the second time around with this sample, you could take out the hi-hats, and even though we already introduced them, we could reintroduce them. I kind of want to add those little flourishes back in, but just that, not the straight beat. And then I might add a reverse. So at this point we're structuring it a little bit, but also we're just adding little variances. So if you want to get the overall feel of your track together, now is a good part to do so. We're going to play this for a few sections here. This is the intro. If we could bring that back, cut out the drums except maybe the hi-hats, and then bring everything back. I'm just going to take my loop section, copy the whole thing, and just bring it there. And I don't know, I feel a certain type of way when I am just looping things like that, and we spent X amount of time here and I'm just doing the exact same stuff over here, but we're just doing broad strokes of how the song is going to sound. Just a basic funk song, a little outro, and then within here we could add like every 4 bars we could add a little see, that might be a good transitional piece right before here. And speaking of transitions, this pack also has a lot of very good transition elements. I like that. That's like a film camera recharge or something. Or I think it's the I was looking for it at one point. It's the it's like night vision goggles in this video game I've never played before, but it's in a lot of DJ Young Vamp songs, which I really like. So I reverse that. I don't even know if I really like that reverse. But tuned down a little bit, I like that. And then it also comes with a lot of...
Man, drop that shit for these fuck niggas. Man, drop that.
Hilarious.
Man, drop.
See, that's a nice little sound that everyone knows. Yeah, so we'll just add a little something different when the beat comes back here. I'm gonna add a little pause there. And just like accentuate this, because you're hearing in the background, and then all of a sudden you're paying attention to it because there's nothing else playing for that one section. I like to add those little pauses. A lot of people think you need to build up a crazy fill with a lot of extra pieces, but sometimes a nice fill is just taking parts out. So. We might add a fill right in the middle here, another triplet type thing. I have like an idea in my head of going dot 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 dot. So I'm gonna take this section. Well, I can select them all at the same time and just pitch them down. Yeah, that works pretty well. For some reason it seems like it's coming early, so I'm going to try this. Yeah, that's nice. Alright. And at this point, you might be wondering, hey, let's put some acapellas. So this pack also has acapellas, but a lot of them are like 3-6 Mafia type stuff that has the drums in it as well. Which in a lot of ways makes it easier to find the BPM because it has the drums, but I'm looking for something more so like something more modern. So I don't know where I even got this from. Okay, pretty good. So we're gonna take this vocals only. I'm gonna try this warp straight, and we're gonna wanna line it up, and you gotta use your ear for this. And you can't be fooling yourself like, oh, that sounds good. No, it needs to sound good all the way through, because if the BPM's a little bit off, towards the end of the track it's going to get really messed up. So you got to make sure you know when the rapper's coming on. Sometimes you can do an offset type thing where it's like they're rapping, you know, offset 2 bars or so. So I got broads in the line. So that doesn't sound right. It might be the right BPM, but it's not when he comes in. He comes in a bit early. But some people do that intentionally just to get a different feel for the track, and you know, that's just up to you. But I want to do it how the actual song is. So if I remember, he says panda about 3-4 times. I got broads in the line. So I feel like it's boom. I got bras in Atlanta.
I got broads in Atlanta, just to be in the family. Credit cards in the scammers, hitting the licks in the van. Legacies, family, wait and see, look like a panda. Going out like a Montana, honey killers on their hands. Legacies on their hands.
Okay, so if you noticed, it was doing pretty good up until this section, and that's just because it's a little bit off. So I'm gonna take this and do what I did, the manual type thing. Whoops. For some reason, I like to take this slider. Just works better for me, the detune. So that's how I match it up, and then I hit warp, and then I bring it back to normal in terms of its tone. But you might have to detune it to fit the key of the song if it's sounding off. But this is where I believe that the second section should start. So that's why, since it was over here, I brought it over here, and hopefully the rest of it sounds good.
I got broads in Atlanta, just to be in the family. Credit cards in the scammers, hitting the licks in the van. Legacies, family, wait and see, look like a panda. Going out like a Montana, honey killers on their hands. Legacies, family, wait and see, family. I get smooth, down.
So it's a bit off now on this second section. This sounds pretty good.
Wait and see, look like a panda. Going out like a Montana, honey killers on their hands. Legacies, 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 family.
So this is a bit fast, actually. I'm wondering if there's a way I can.
I got broad.
Whoops. So your acapella is going to the beat. Even though the beat's not there, the rapper is on beat. So you're not gonna want to fool yourself and be like, oh, maybe this section just stutters, and no, you get the BPM wrong. So
honey killers on their hands. Legacies, family.
So if this doesn't hit, I can't tell what's going on.
Legacies, family.
But I know this happens. It should be Black X6 Fana on this either here or there. So but I'm feeling like it's late. So.
Legacies, family.
So I'm gonna bring it back even more with this. Whoops. And see if it still sounds good on this end.
Legacies, family, wait and see, look like a panda. Going out like a Montana, honey killers on their hands.
Oh my god. Okay, now that's too much.
Honey killers on their hands, honey killers on their hands. I got broads in Atlanta, just to be in the family. Credit cards in the scammers, hitting the licks.
Okay, maybe we're a bit late because I feel like this ad-lib, this section should hit a little bit later. But it's all about trial and error. You don't want your stuff to sound garbage just because you didn't want to take the extra step to line it up.
I got broads in Atlanta, just to be in the family. Credit cards in the scammers, hitting the licks in the van. Legacies, family, wait and see, look like a panda. Going out like a Montana, honey killers on their hands. Legacies, family, wait and see, family. Pocket smooth, down it, selling ball, man on the macho like Randy. The chopper go out to the granted. This nigga pull up your bandit. Hope you killers understand it. I got broads.
So it's sounding better, but still losing it around this section. So Ableton's been telling me like this section you're saying the beat is 143.5, which or 144.2. I'm gonna take the 0.2, or I'm gonna just make it 145 or something. See what happens there.
I got broads in Atlanta, just to throw me in the family. Credit cards in the scammers, hitting the licks in the van. Legacies, family, wait and see, look like a panda. Going out like a Montana, honey killers on their hands. Legacies, family, wait and see, family. I get swoop, down, selling ball, they not the macho like Randy. The chopper go out to for granted. This nigga pull up your bandit. Hope the killers understand it. I got broads in Atlanta, just to throw me in the family. Credit cards and the scammers, hitting the licks in the van. Legacy, family, wait and see, look like a panda. Going out like a Montana, honey killers on their hands. Legacy, family, wait and see, family. Nuggets swoop, down, selling ball, candy. Legacy, family, wait and see, family. Nuggets swoop, down, selling ball, candy.
Alright, so I was happy with that. I added that little section because I wanted to just cover how much the beat is, but it gave me an idea. Sometimes there's some DJ scratches, which if it's a good producer, I'm sure they do them themselves, but for me, I don't have a DJ deck like that or turntable, so I'm just gonna find in my files, I'm gonna find some DJ scratch effects. Not like that. Baby scratches. So I'm gonna use something like that, and I'm gonna chop up the sample, the acapella sample. And I'm gonna do that technique we did with the chopped and screwed. Gonna bring this section over here. Wait. I'm gonna make sure that you can hear the scratches in the background, and they somewhat correspond. Huh. Special scratches. Something like that. And I'm just going to saturate it a bit to bring the volume up. Copy this and reverse it. Maybe a second section. And in terms of mixing the vocals, this is like a lo-fi genre for me, at least. I like to make these acapellas sound like they're coming out of a phone, and a lot of the times just dry. They kind of do, because the rips are not all that great all the time. So even though we got a good acapella, we're gonna take this section and throw it through a little bit of a cabinet. Filter.
I got broads in Atlanta, just to throw me in the family. Credit cards and the scammers, hitting the licks in the van. Legacies, family, wait and see, look like a panda. Going out like a Montana, honey killers on their hands. Legacies, family, wait and see, family. I get swoop, down, selling ball, candy. They not the macho like Randy, the chopper go out to for granted. Niggas pull up your bandit, killers on their hands. I got broads in Atlanta, just to throw me in the family. Credit cards and the scammers, hitting the licks in the van. Legacy, family, wait and see, look like a panda. Going out like a Montana, honey killers on their hands. Legacy, family.
just adding a little bit of processing to that acapella. But yeah, there's a bit more messing around I would do on my own, but just for the sake of the tutorial, that is that. I hope you learned a thing or two. I'm sorry that I am coughing, and I'm sorry that I don't know how to teach. And also my editing software, I haven't paid for it, so it doesn't let me use it. So this is a one take. This is like a Quentin Tarantino movie or something, or like I don't know, a Scorsese movie that has just one take all the way through. So, but this is start to finish. I don't know how long it took. An hour? Okay, cool. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed and you learned something. I guess we'll play the track all the way through before I go. But yeah, here we go.
I got broads in Atlanta, just to be in the family. Credit cards in the scammers, hitting the licks in the van. Legacies, family, wait and see, look like a panda. Going out like a Montana, honey killers on their hands. Legacies, family, wait and see, family. I get smooth, down, selling ball, candy. They not the macho like Randy, the chopper go out to for granted. This nigga pull up your bandit, hope the killers understand it. I got broads in Atlanta, just to be in the family. Credit cards and the scammers, hitting the loose in the van. Legacy, family, wait and see, look like a panda. Going out like a Montana, honey killers on their hands. Legacy, family, wait and see, family. Nuggets with daddy, selling ball, candy. Legacy, family, nuggets with daddy, selling ball, candy.
Yeah, this chopping vocals is in its beginning stages, but that's just a little variation, and that's the outro. So hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. Comment, send me your beats that you made. Let me know if you want a theme like this. I bet that's all anyone's ever thinking about. But I'll show you how to get cool themes, and I'll show you some ones that I made. Yeah, thank you. It's Drew Sicko. Peace out.